where I belong. Seen the sun set and rise, tears fall, new dreams arise. Every step tells my tale in these nights and bright skies. Gotta tell my story.
Okay, for those of you out there, you probably remember Jocelyn. Jocelyn, people, Jocelyn.
Hi,
Uh,
people.
when last we were here, Jocelyn told us the story of a girl who should have been thinking about things like, oh my God, I wonder if I'll make the cheerleading team. And instead,
Gone girl.
she had to be thrust into adulthood and worry about things more important than zits. And where would you like to pick up?
Yeah. So thank you for having me back on. I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story and hopefully maybe it inspires somebody or helps somebody going through something. And um, or maybe it helps people learn not to judge others and their own and their journeys. That's what I'm hoping, out of all of this. So, I think the best place to start is I want to go back a little bit because I do want to bring this story kind of to present day, and what I'm doing and what my son's doing, and so I'm gonna kind of take it back to um, when Damien's a toddler still. I'm just going to briefly talk about that. I had my first job when he was 17, so I went through high school and I graduated. Um, Mainly because, as I'd mentioned, my dad helped me reach that goal. So after that, it was like, okay, now what? I had no idea what I was going to do. So my first job. I was working at a bowling alley, and it was a great job, but it didn't pay very well. So I heavily relied at that time on my father, and I also was relying on assistance programs. And I can't say enough how those programs helped me. They were paramount. I mentioned the grads program when I was in high school, but had it not been for some of these assistance programs, Damien would have never seen a doctor, so I relied heavily on that stuff. And I I had this small job, had no idea what I wanted to do as far as a career went. That wasn't even in my realm at the time because that meant more school, and I didn't have the money to pay for that. And so I decided to just go get these small jobs. And um, I was working, you know, at a bowling alley and gas stations and just things like that, anything to help pay the bills. I also, was looking for at that time. This is several years later now. I would say around 2008. Damien was 5 or 6, and I wanted a partner. I wanted someone to help me. And I had this friend, Kaz, who we'd been friends for so long, and there was attraction there. And we began dating, and he had a daughter at the time. And so we we actually lived together for 3 years, and we all became very close. um, his daughter's name is Lexi, and I have a picture actually of Lexi and Damien years later. He took her to homecoming, so that should go up at some point. You can,
And
but to go back,
my crack staff will be on that.
yeah, but to go back, so Kaz had this daughter Lexi, and she was little at the time. She was, yeah, that's Lexi, all grown up. And Damien, he took her to homecoming, and she was like a sister to him. So they met when Damien was, like I said, he was about 5 or 6, and so Lexi was 2.5, I would say, going on 3. And we, um, so I met um, Kaz's. ex, who was Jamie's mom, or I'm sorry, Lexi's mom. Her name's Jamie, and Jamie and I became friends. So while Kaz and I did not work out, Damien and Kaz still talk to this day. And if I see Kaz, it's very cordial. There's no bad blood there. But um, so Jamie uh, said to me at one point, she said she remembered me mentioning going to massage. That's one thing that I would say about Jamie, is that um, she always wanted better for me, and even sometimes when I didn't for myself. And so she kept kind of pushing me. I remember you saying something about wanting to go to massage school, because she'd asked me like what I wanted to do. Hadn't really had a friend that had taken that kind of interest like that. And so she remembered that, and she came to me one day and she said, "Hey, I think I'm going to go to massage school, and I think you should go with me." And because she didn't know what she wanted to do either at the time, she was in a catering job that she'd been in since she was 16, and had a really comfortable family environment there, but wasn't making enough money, and just wanted to move on from that. So she said, "I think I'm gonna go to massage school, and you should come with me." And I think that's what I needed, was just another person to go with me, just to kind of support me. And it was probably the turning point for me in terms of um, not feeling stuck, I guess. Once I got into massage school, at first, I think my brain was like, am I doing the right thing? Because I was spending money, although I was able to get financial aid. But it was like, I'm taking this time out of working. I'm, doing all this stuff. And but I went because she was encouraging me to do this. And so, that was in 2010. Yeah, yeah, in 2010. Um, I started practicing in 2011, when I was finished. And while I was in school, I had just this sort of dawning moment where it was like, "Oh, I this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing," and I'd never felt that way. It was the first time I felt like aligned. This is where I have a direction I'm headed in for the first time, instead of like there's just this chaos going on around me and I'm coping with it. It was I'm in control of the trajectory now. So that was a really powerful moment for me. And I fell in love with massage. It's everything that for an introvert, it's a wonderful job because I'm only one on one with a person at any given time. I'm not working in the public, which I also can and did do, but because then I did go on to teach massage. Um, so I've now been practicing for 13 years, and it's completely changed my life. And being able to teach it did too. But so to go backward a little bit, so that was 2010 that I finished massage school. And then in 2013, I met my now husband, um, and his name's Dean. And we met at a bar. He was a trivia host, and my mom and I had gone to play trivia, and um, met him, and just, it was just very natural. So I kind of thought to myself, like, this could be my partner. This could be the person that I share this with, and that help, even though at that point I'd realized, I think that's why I was ready. I'd realized that I didn't actually need someone. Because I was doing all of this on my own, like I didn't actually need a person. So I that's I think what made it so good was like I just wanted to spend time with him and share this time with him. And so at that time Damien was about, let's see, he would have been 12. Let's see. yeah, I think he was about 12, 11 or 12. Um, when we met, and he loved Dean as well. And Dean has an older boy named Dylan who's 2 years older than Damien. So they were, they were friends. They never got super close. I wouldn't say they were like best friends having sleepovers and things like that. I mean, they did have sleepovers, but as brothers. Oh, I lost you there for a second, Dan.
I
You
still
there?
see you. I still got you.
Okay. You just went out for a second. Um, so it was everything felt like it was finally settling. Damien hadn't spoken to his dad. In fact, on one of the occasions I was talking about where I got a phone call from him, Dean came with me to pick him up from his dad's. Um, and he didn't see his dad again for a long time after that. And we really started to settle into this like just comfortable, safe, routine, structured way of living. And it felt right for the first time. And then I got pregnant with DJ, and Dean and I got married. And it was like, so suddenly I'm starting over. Suddenly I'm starting over. And Damien was so happy when he found out that he was going to have a little brother or sister. We didn't know at the time. The first thing that he did was he went and he stopped at some kind of garage sale, and he bought a pair of baby socks. They were little girls' baby socks, and they were just the cutest things. And he brought them home. He was so excited, and um, just because he's such a caretaker type of person. He really loves to like pour love into other people, and which has, been detrimental to him and me at times. So that's part of our story as well. But yeah, this is DJ, the little guy there, and then Damien. This is just all my happiness right here. um, and Damien was, let's see, so he was 13, and um, I think as we started settling into this new family dynamic in a new home, um, you know, Damien has new, it's all new. Mom has a career, and now I have a brother and a stepdad, and it did happen pretty fast, very fast. I said Dean and I met in 2013. We were married in 2015, so it was a very quick kind of. And looking at it now, at the time it felt like this feels right. Everything felt so right. Damien was exploring playing football and marching band and all of these different things that we hadn't dreamed of before. And it was just because we had stability. Yeah, here's Damien. He hated football. It wasn't for him. But and then he loved marching band. That was his love. Um, he was good at it. He was really good at it. So, but around this time, where he's in marching band, uh, I think um, it was just such a drastic change, and I do think that not that he's necessarily expressed this, but I think that maybe felt pushed out as much as I would try to, keep everything cohesive. It was for so long just the two of us. And suddenly, a baby takes a lot of care, and suddenly he was also helping. And I think that that was a lot for him at that age. And he started to rebel. And then it became like he didn't want to be a part of the family things anymore. Um, and he's wanted to be spending more time with his friends, which is normal for a teenager. um but it also, I think he was choosing crowds that were, you know they weren't aligning with any of his like future goals. I would say he was, but they were relatable people to him because it was people who had been through things like he had, and so I think very naturally it led to this, he found these people that he could resonate with on a level like a trauma bond type of level, not necessarily a healthy relationship, but and he started relying more on that than on family and at that time and he was um it got really really hard. That's been after all of my story, this has been probably the hardest part for me because um he leaves. He at 16 he had started he tried to sell weed out of his marching band locker and they caught him and they kicked him out of school. And so he was at home and he was doing online he's doing his high school online um and he was extremely resentful that he couldn't go to school and he wasn't allowed to just smoke weed and it was like he was that was something that was helpful to him and or he felt was helpful to him with um he was in a sense he was attempting to self-medicate and he was being blocked is how he saw it um and the crowds that would come along with some of the activities that he was doing it just seemed to devolve worse and worse and um he was 17 when he told me he was moving out. um he couldn't stand to be there anymore because by this time we had we were trying to put our foot down with him and he was rebelling so hard that it was like it was just um it was very contentious in the home, like, just and so he said he was moving out, and I tried so hard to keep him, and eventually I mean, there isn't anything you can do, especially in the state of Ohio, I know for sure, there isn't anything you can do once he left, um, the only thing you can do is press charges on another whoever he's staying with, and I'm like for aiding and abetting a runaway. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to press charges on a bunch of 19-year-olds, 18, 19-year-olds who are housing my 17-year. That's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help my son. So I had no choice but to let him go. And it was really, really hard because he would go, days without checking in and talking to me. He went, just didn't want to talk to me or you know so it was really really difficult and then I noticed changes in him when I did see him that worried and scared me and um that has been the struggle since and today we are extremely close. We are you know um he's still struggling. We all do, but yeah, so this is a right around the time he's learning to drive. He is going through this. He's in this, this picture is probably right before he got busted for trying to sell weed out of his marching band locker. And they were so devastated at his school because they knew how the path he was on was so good. He was in marching band. He was um just he's always made excellent grades. He's super smart and he was planning on graduating early and taking college credits, which he did end up graduating early, but he did decide that he didn't want to do the college experience. And I think as a mom that was hard for me because I was like, "Oh, you would love it. It would expand you so much." And I just having never done it myself. So I don't know. It is very hard not to project yourself onto your children. And that is what people do. And that's the part that's so it can be very damaging to a child and he just kept resisting these ideas I had for him. And I get that. It's very hard, but I get that. And he is not a person that learns anything the easy way. He went to he walked. He was allowed to walk in his high school graduation, which we were extremely thankful for because we weren't sure. He was expelled from all activities, all student activities. We kind of petitioned for him to be able to walk, which was amazing. And he graduated from the same high school that I did, and my grad's teacher, which is the program I mentioned last time, she was there. So she, got to see him graduate after seeing me with him pregnant in the same high school. And it was a very kind of tearful moment of like, wow, that's just this amount of time. And we've made it this far. Kind of amazing, just an amazing thing. So, yeah, but with Damien, when he started rebelling and leaning on these groups of friends, he was sort of being passed between all these groups of friends. He was couch surfing, he was doing all these things, but he ended up becoming friends with um, someone who was much older than him, a 28-year-old guy who had this apartment that he was basically running drugs out of. And he was having my, you know, 18-year-old son driving to a really, really bad part of town and being robbed by gunpoint and all of these things which I found out later that Damien wasn't sharing with me. Um, so more trauma on top of trauma. So Damien has experienced the law, and then that person who he saw at the time as his best friend, um, someone came into his apartment and shot him in front of Damien's other best friend. So now it's just more and more, and they've lost a lot of people. These kids that all kind of have made these relationships together. You know, it's very sad and to watch Damien learn this and make these realizations after me. I mean, I would plead with him and cry and whatever, just what mothers do. And he had to learn these things on his own, and he has found the most extreme situations to learn these things. And I was very similar. I was very similar, so I understand it, and yet it's so scary. And now I would say probably his biggest challenge is relationships, which I think that's probably true for all of us or most of us. Relationships. Um, like I mentioned, he's very much a person who wants to pour his love and help and all that sort of stuff into other people. And he's been burned a lot for that, and by that. And so, yeah, but now he is in therapy, and yeah, he's doing a wonderful job. So I'm super proud of him. I couldn't be prouder because he's been through so much. When people ask me things like, "Well, did he pick a school? Is he going to college?" I'm like, "This isn't in his reality. This isn't in the realm." I'm like, "No, he's in therapy." And it's a wonderful thing that he's doing that, that he's come this far to choose that, to want, because there were nights there, I drove to his house and stayed the night on his floor all night because he was you know, um, threatening suicide. And he's been through a lot and he hasn't loved his life. And all I want for him is a life that he can love, no matter what that means. And if it's not college, then it's not college.
Is
I don't care about that.
is he working?
He is working. So he's working two jobs actually. And right now he just ended a relationship, which I think is a good thing. Yeah, that was his first job. Right now he's doing landscaping, and he is working at a pizzeria that's in town. It's like a family owned. It's been there forever, and so it's a good spot for him. And the people that he's spending more of his time with as of late, just in the last month or so, are people that are a little bit older, and have, the owner of the landscaping company. So I'm hoping maybe there's some mentorship there, because I think he's lacked that, especially from men, in his life. And by the time that Dean and I got married, it was already kind of too late for that to happen, for that, in that way, because suddenly it was like a father figure with rules instead of a mentor.
Actually,
It,
I was going to wait to the end to ask you this, but since you brought that up again, do you
yeah,
think that, besides just regular teenage rebellion and all that, do you think part of his problem with Dean was seeing a father act the way a father should? And so that just kind of confused his brain?
I do. Especially because he has this deep, like, need to protect his father. Um, so I think that having that glaring opposition to what his father is, was hard for him to process, that, some of the things that he was protecting, he shouldn't have been. Yeah. This this is one of the last times. Well, no, I think he's seen him a couple of times recently, actually, but he's 19 or 20 here, and this is very close to a time where they actually got in a physical altercation. Damien kept saying to me, "I'm gonna beat my dad's ass. I'm gonna beat his ass." And I kept trying to tell him, it's not worth it. It won't change a thing. It will not feel good. And he begged to differ. Oh, yes, it will. It will feel good, and he just, and they did. They got into it because Damien was, he had that in his mind, that he wanted to get in this fight with his dad. And at this point, Damien's younger, stronger, and Adam has been an alcoholic for so long. He's just kind of a weak man, and Damien beat his ass, and it didn't change a thing. And so he was able to get that out of him. And but it didn't change Adam. It didn't eliminate Damien's need for therapy. It didn't do any of that. So, but yeah, it's been a roller coaster. It's been a journey, and I think Damien's still discovering a lot of those parts of himself. That I try to tell Damien, when you think, all you think is, "I'm never gonna be like him. I'm never gonna be like him. I'm never gonna be like him." What you deny is the inevitability of having traits of both of your parents. And if you I've noticed that when people say, "I'm never going to be like that person," they end up being so much like them. And I think it is because of denial. I think it is because when you don't recognize how you are like them, in what ways you are like them, you can't do anything with those things. You just play them out. And so I would always tell him, like, you are going to have some traits from your dad, and that's okay. It's what you do with them and how you accept them, and move forward, that's going to make all of the difference. So and so he is like his dad in a lot of ways, and he's like me in a lot of ways, and in more ways than both of that, he's very much his own person. But yeah, it's so I know I'm kind of stopping a little short here, but unless you have some more questions, I think that brings us pretty up to date with the story.
I have I have a couple of things before we see if those people out there have anything, because I don't care about them. Uh, One thing I thought of
We know
afterwards,
that about you.
and we're about a generation apart, so I just wonder, like, when you were a pregnant teen in high school,
Yeah.
were people accepting? Were they Were you at all an outcast? And how did other people, and also how did your family take it?
Yeah. So I would say at school it was very mixed. I told the very first person, one of the first people that I told was my best friend at the time, Stacy. And I don't know how to describe Stacy other than she's very like um ditzy's not a nice word, but that's the word that's coming to mind, you know. So, but a lovely person, but just kind of like didn't at that time always know the right thing to do. So when I told her, the next day she came to my advisory classroom with balloons that said congratulations. And
Uh,
I was mortified because um, people were asking me all day, I'm like, what are these balloons about? And I lied and said good grades because I certainly at that time did not have good grades because I was still working on before that I didn't care. I didn't care at all. And then you can actually see in my high school transcripts where I got pregnant because I went from like really terrible grades to A's and B's because I was like, oh shit, I am gonna have to actually have a life. Oh, there's somebody else here, So um, that was, but I also had people who at the school who definitely looked down on me. There were a couple of teachers that took extra interest in me, which I appreciated, and because they didn't have to, but you could just see it that they felt for me and wanted to help. So but I had people tell me I should get an abortion. I had people tell me I should, just interjecting advice that was unwanted. And I think also one of the things that, um, not to divert from your question, and I will kind of come back to that point, but um, one of the things I think that I did at that time, which now in retrospect I can see, is I think that I rejected a lot of support that could have been given to me because I had such guilt that the idea of a teen mom was always like, oh, her parents are going to take care of the baby. Or it was always this idea that a teen mom isn't a good mom. It can't be a good mom, can't do it, and whatever. So I sort of had this like, I think I pushed away some support out of like I can do this on my own, or I would maybe take sometimes offering of support as judgment, which I'm very guilty of, like perceiving things as judgment, which I've come a long way in that as well. But feeling judged was something that was a theme throughout my life. And so I think that I did push away some things that could have helped support us. Um, so if I would say something, out there to anyone like who's a teen mom or a young mom or just let them help. Like don't, you don't have to push them away because ultimately it enriches the life of your child and that's what you really want anyway. So but yeah, how my family reacted, I think I mentioned my mom was the one that told me that I was pregnant. And my dad, he w- was amazing. And like I said, at first we didn't talk. And then he finally sort of came around and just told me that he wasn't happy about it at all, but that he was there for me and I'm his daughter and he would help me with whatever. And he did. He made good on all of that. Um, so yeah, extended family, you know, I never really cared what they thought. Well, that's not true. I think when I was first when it when I was first pregnant and having Damien, I think like things were said that were hurtful. Um, but looking back, I'm like, this is just kind of what people aren't trying to be hurtful. They're just reacting to something that is shocking. I was 15, it's pretty shocking. And so I think and I had friends at school, but I think a lot of people did alienate me. I do remember sitting by myself a lot at lunch. Um, because I wasn't really hanging out with kids like after school, and I wasn't in any kind of after school activities or anything like that. So yeah, it was a mixed experience. And some people who weren't nice to me before suddenly became very nice to me for whatever reason. So
Can, can
so
I
they could say
say,
they were trying.
I think I speak for other people too. Like again, you mentioned about how your grades suddenly got better and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think one of the things that a lot of us admire, and I know you get uncomfortable when we say things like that, but that is like totally the opposite of what you'd expect from a 15-year
Yeah.
old. Usually you'd think it's going to be they had good grades, they find out they're pregnant, everything goes. You said, I'm going to have a kid. I
Yeah.
have to do better. I have to make sure he's going to have a good life. Um, and before we move on to other stuff too, is there anything else from like part one that you thought maybe you weren't clear about or you wondered? And I do want to mention that you were mentioned it the first time too. Just as a side note, people, she mentioned that grads program that helped her so much. And of course, that no longer exists because that's the way we are. You have a good social program. That's to go on the cutting back. But anyway, is there anything
Yeah.
else you think of that? Oh, I should have explained this better, or I didn't. I forgot to mention this. Anything like that?
I don't think so. I do want to reiterate, like I think that those social programs are so paramount to helping people, and I use my vote whenever I can to, you know, we need those things in our society because things like this happen. And had it not been for these programs, um, I really don't know. it's I don't like to think about where I could have ended up or been, and so yeah, I think if you're struggling, I don't know how, I know that my story isn't completely unique. There are plenty of young mothers, and right now I can't imagine what that struggle is like and how hard it must be to find support. Um, so you're not alone. Like you're not alone,
Hmm.
and but I couldn't have done it without the support that I did have, as little as that may have seemed, because I didn't have um whatever. I didn't have the support that maybe, but I really did. I had enough support that pushed me forward. It just takes a couple of people throughout your life to say a couple of things that show that they're interested in you living a life that you love, and in you, or at least that you're not miserable in. And
Well,
so,
let me say on that point for people. Uh, you see where Jocelyn is sitting. That is the office of her business. She has her own business. As
yeah,
she said, she went to massage school. She's a massage therapist. Also, let me just emphasize, she touched on she's married, has a good man in her life, and a
yeah,
great second son. So, yeah, the story does have a bit of a happy middle, let's say, because it's not the end.
yeah, yes,
So,
exactly.
let's see if anybody, if they highlighted any comments or questions that people have.
Yeah, DJ, my youngest son is 9 now. So this is, you know, now we're here, and Damien's 22. And yeah. Oh, Can I see stuff? Oh, maybe not.
Oh, well, nothing's come up yet.
Okay.
Maybe we put everybody to sleep. Oh, here's
Oh
one.
no.
It says that's what a friend is, one who doesn't give up and keeps it real.
Yeah. And I
She's
guess
fighting the
like if you could
introverted. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say if you could take away anything from today's talk, it's like, if you see someone in a situation who could use support and who isn't asking or can't or won't ask, you know, to gently remind them frequently that you're there and able to support. That's what I needed. And sometimes I had people forcefully interject their support, which sometimes was also needed. But yeah, that gentle reminder, those people who might be struggling, that you're there. Yeah.
Mitch also said she's fighting the introverted feelings she has well. And hats to her. I'm not quite sure what he means by that, but
Well, it's funny when I do mention being an introvert, people are usually surprised because I have the ability to like public speak. I host trivia. That's the other I have that's my second job, I guess, but I do that only one night a week, so it's more like a hobby, but um I host trivia on a microphone and I taught classes and but I am an introvert because I definitely prefer a smaller group of energy, and that's how I recharge. That's how I charge. I have to have those times to myself, and I can't imagine, like, my husband is a total extrovert. He is like an entertainer through and through. He is on the mic, and he did some time on TV, and so we're very different in that way. But he's also, when we're at home, he just wants, no visitors, just so it's funny. I guess we're both ambiverts, but he's definitely on the extrovert spectrum, and I've learned from him. I Before I met him, if someone had asked me to get on a microphone and host trivia, I would have been like, there's no way. But and actually, when he asked me if I wanted to do it this time around, because he's been doing it now, he's probably been doing hosting trivia for about 15 years, but he's had his own company doing it for 10 years. This year actually this month is 10 years. Um, so I've learned so much from him, and he came to me last in February and said, we've got another venue that wants our game, but I'm booked on those on Wednesdays, and would you want to do this? And I was like, no, no, I don't want to do that at all. It doesn't sound like anything, and I love trivia, um, but then, the more I thought about it, the more I thought I could do that. It could be fun. And I am having a ton of fun with it. It is a lot of fun. I have regular teams that come play, and I'm waiting for you to show up, Dan, with your team.
one of these days. By the
Okay.
way, my friends backstage are telling me I'm a moron. That what Mitch was saying is hats off to her.
Oh,
And
well, thank you.
and he also said you moved forward well. Looks good on her.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I can't see any of the comments right now, but
Nikki
yeah.
asked, as a teen mom myself, did you ever have feelings of not being good enough for your child?
Oh, I still do. I don't think that was limited to teenage years. That's the other thing, in starting over and having, a child later. I was 28 when I had DJ, so I had already, learned so much. I raise him very differently, and there's so much guilt there, still all the time, because it's like, Damien didn't get these happy family moments like this. And I did as much as I could to I was always trying to do fun things with him, but it is different. It's a different so yeah, feeling like you're not good enough as a mom. Oh, I mean, I think that like just comes with the territory, but then when you're a teen mom and the rest of society also thinks you're not good enough, it's really hard. So you have to find this like internal compass that like blocks out all the noise that goes what feels right here, and that's what I've tried to do.
Nikki also asked, do you feel you're more protective of Damien than DJ because you were alone with Damien for so long?
I think it's actually the opposite. I think
Funny,
I'm
that's what I
so
was thinking.
Yeah, I think I'm so protective of DJ because of all that we went through, all I, and I also maybe mistakenly have seen Damien as more resilient or independent or whatever because he has been through so much. Um, so yeah, I think, and that's another part of my mom guilt is like I am more protective. I'm more protective of DJ. But Damien is very protective of DJ. You know, he's ready to hurt anybody who hurts him, basically, So yeah, I think it is kind of the opposite. Now, in terms of like when Damien was little, I was just in a completely different frame of mind. I was protective of us both kind of all the time because it just felt like we were just surviving and pushing through. And with DJ, it feels like I watch him um and the ways that he is able to use his mind and use his time and play and all this stuff. And just when I put that in juxtaposition to what Damien was going through at that same age, it is like just it hurts my heart, but it makes me happy at the same time. It hurts me for Damien and it makes me happy for DJ that he doesn't have to, experience that stuff. And so he's aware of Damien's life, and the things he's been through to some extent, but in his mind it's this really far off, far out kind of idea that a person's dad could do those things, or because him and his dad are just, you know, two peas in a pod, always joking around, and I love that. I watching those, it's been so fulfilling watching those two together because it's what I always wanted for Damien. And again, that's projecting that what I wanted for Damien, but he deserved that. Damien deserved to have every kid does. And so yeah, I think it's this very strange kind of polar experience all the time where it's pain and joy. So, yeah.
I think, I think it's funny. I think obviously the way people from the outside view it, because I think most of us are amazed at how well you did. Where you look at what you couldn't do, most of us are thinking, wow, with everything she was facing, she tried her best for her son. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably how it is for most people who overcome anything. And I don't even know if overcome is not the right word. You don't really overcome a story like this. It's not something to overcome. It's something to navigate but I sometimes I am proud of myself. I am proud of Damien and what we've been through, how we've dealt with it, how we've, come out of really difficult situations. But I'm more than anything, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we're both alive. And I um it's yeah, I appreciate that. Um it's hard to
Mm.
see that in yourself too, kind of turn it around. But we're our own worst critics, and that's what we do.
Well, I think GMK summed it up for all of us. Jocelyn, thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share. I appreciate the opportunity.
Mitch cannot shut up. He said, Tell her I said it took a lot of courage to face all your fears head on and rise like cream to the surface.
Thank you. It doesn't always feel like that in every moment, but when you walk away and look back, yeah, I can
I
kind
think,
of see it.
yeah, he just said his kids are in their 30s, and every once in a while it hits for dads, even though most men won't admit it.
What did I
It's
say? Oh, I'm sorry.
But I think we've come to a good conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much again. And thank you for your guys backstage there that are helping out.
Yep. And thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you
And
so
thanks for
much.
people to tuning in.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
May God with a song.